some of the personal, I mean, you've had personal ups and downs, personal in the business. I don't know if you want to talk about share some of the personal side. I mean, challenges in growing a company, growing with people that are close to you, when you feel like a company is outgrowing you in different ways.
Well, that was probably the biggest challenge of all. The rest of these were business challenges, but the hardest personal challenge for me was when we went into retail and we started hiring the Stanford and the Harvard MBAs and seasoned merchants and people that knew how to do all that stuff. And my group here and others like them really we'd outgrown their, quote, experience. And frankly, outgrown my experience, but we'll speak for the hardest part about that was that we needed to part ways. And at the time, I thought it was like a near-death experience for me, because we were all on the life raft together. This was a committed, concerted, collegial family that fought for the direction and the survival of this company. And yet I had to say, time's up. And it was really, really hard. Yet, we've endured, we're all still friends today, 30-some years later. But at the time when I had to go into those offices and do that, and on a personal level, I kept thinking, I'll go with them. Because the company sure outgrown my skill set. But for whatever reasons, the board and the press thought I was going to be one of those rare entrepreneurs that was going to take it from, inception to public company. I did not make it, but that was on my own giving up or whatever. I couldn't do it anymore. But those were really just understanding that the company needs different talents at different times. And as Karen said to me today, just as we were sitting down, she said, it's so nice that you're being acknowledged, because starting something is completely different than going from point B to point C or D to E. And we started this. I mean, I started, but I feel like they were right in there from the inception. Whatever. Once the baby was born. Enough with the analogies.
That baby's growing up, isn't it?
Yeah. She's all grown up now with a great new.
No, this very early days still. But I think you guys can see why, for me in my first conversations with Joan, I feel like I sort of struck gold with trying to understand a little bit more about the company and hear more. I would love to take questions from you guys. And if you have, this is a great opportunity for you to be able to ask any questions on things I may not be thinking of. So if there are questions out there. Yes, we have one. Oh, there's one there, one here.
Hello.
Hi.
My question is...
Can you tell me who you are and what you do? I'd just love to get to...
Sure. My name is Lindsay Sullivan, and I work in Gymboree Outlet in production.
Okay.
And my question is, what kind of struggles did you have being a woman business owner in the early and throughout the 80s?
I'm sorry, being a business owner?
Throughout the 1980s, being a woman's business owner, what kind of struggles did you have during that time?
Okay. Did everybody hear the question? Yeah. Well, I wish I know what you're trying to ask. I think my struggles were more with the internal struggles about my commitment to my family and trying to do that horrible dance balance between that. As an entrepreneur in the business world and finding prejudices from that kind of situation, I didn't really find that. I think that it was more prevalent in the corporate world. But as an entrepreneur, I was I felt very well accepted by the board, by the investor community. Maybe I just didn't see it, but I just didn't feel any stops that way. We were about 95% women. I liked it that way. We kept butt around to keep the equal opportunities away from us. But I loved working with women, and still love working with women. We're just very multi-capacity or something. So I didn't really feel those struggles. As I said, most of my struggles were internal with that elusive thing called balance between your personal life and what you're trying to do out there in the world.
I think we had a question over here. Over here, there's one.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Budd. I'm in store operations. And my question is, what do you think of Gymboree today? When you walk through a mall and you see it, what do you think?
Honesty.
I had the opportunity of going up to Napa Valley and talking with Mark and the exec team, and I had that question. And I looked over at Mark like, can I answer that question?
And I said, honesty. We are allowed to answer any question.
Right. I'm never short for words here. Let's see. I'm just having a hard time finding where it really fits in the rich legacy of where it really grew from. You know, one of the stories I was able to share when I was up at Napa, which was, you know, not only did the Gymboree store initially, when we first opened, win the award for the best new design store of under 6,000 feet when we first opened, which we were so proud of. We also got we had the largest dollars per square foot in our opening. We did $1,100 a square foot at our 1,000 square foot store, beat the jewelry stores in our first launch, you know, our holiday season of '86 going into '87. And that, my friends, was with a unisex line, only knits, and no prints. And not because it was such a strategic choice, because that's all we could produce. But why, and I bring that up only to say it's because we were really focused about clothes that were move and quality and that were aimed at kids for play. You know, we had these signature 3-inch cuffs and knee pads and all this kind of stuff that, you know, people kind of knew who we were. So when I see that besides all the discounting, which Mark has addressed already, it's just hard for me to see how the customer kind of knows who we are as what we stand for. When there's Easter dresses and we go up to 12, and we know that big kids don't really like to shop in the same store that they did when they were 4, you know. So it's a little bit confusing for me what the brand really is about on that level, honestly. We care about our customer, we have to care about ourselves, and so that there's no separation that way. It's just a underpinning of the whole sensibility. And there's an informality that happens with children that has to be felt within the corporate environment too, just a sense that nobody's feeling frightened or all buttoned up or something like that. There's just an informality that has a sensibility of what happens in the casualness and respect of the family. Okay.
Great. Thank you. Others? Oh, there's one back there, Neil. You can go out.
Hi, I'm Spencer in merch planning. I just had a question about
Tell me what you do, I'm sorry.
Merch planning, merchandise planning.
I didn't hear him.
Merchandise planning.
Oh, merchandise planning, okay.
What do you think is the one biggest lesson in life that you've ever learned working?
One is a big
Biggest lesson in life.
Yeah.
that I learned
Yeah.
from my days at Gymboree. Does it have to just be one? I was going to write a book. Well, honestly, I mean, this is maybe a little heavier than but this is what came, so I'm just going to go for it. Which is when I mentioned that that the hardship of having to part with what I call my origin team, or the original people, and I knew deep in that I had also outgrown my capacity, but I didn't have the courage to listen in deeply to what I knew to be true. I have learned that I need to act on what I know to be true. And as much as it was flattering and exciting to be part of the company beyond the time that I really belonged there, I've learned now that when I know, I started another company and it was starting to go in the big rollout thing and I stopped. To a lot of people's disappointment, I stopped because it wasn't right for me to do that again. I didn't have the heart to do another rollout again. So that's probably the biggest lesson I learned, which is to honor my own truth.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Joan. My name is Neil Pants. I'm also a regional director
Hi, Neil.
covering the South Central. My question's a little bit different.
Good.
But, listening to your story was just so great to hear, but I was thinking as you were talking about hitting upon the tough and challenging moments, and I was just thinking if Shark Tank were around then, would you have gone on and what would you have asked?
If I would have, I'm not sure that I understand the question.
If she would have
Oh, you
gone
might
on
have gone on the reality show?
Shark Tank, yes.
Well, ask me and then we'll know. That's an interesting idea. I think I would have been a better candidate for Survivor.
Oh, absolutely. Someone out there that she's going to? No. Any others for Joan? Yes, another.
Hi there. So nice to
Tammy
meet you.
again. Hi.
Yes, I know. Nice to meet you. again.
So I'm the regional director for the South. It's a
I know
pleasure to
that.
meet you
Yeah,
after all of these
likewise.
years. I would just ask this, based on your history with the organization as our founder, if there was a single element of our heritage that we had as we began as an organization that you could integrate today, what's the one thing that you would ask us to do in our stores, from a design perspective, from an environmental perspective? What do you think?
Very, very provocative question. Well, I don't know whether I'm going to blow Mark's cover, so I'm a little hesitant to say, because Mark has shared with me something that's in his plans, a visionary kind of thing that I'm hoping that gets put forward. So I'm not going to say it because I don't know where it's.
You can share anything you want.
I can?
Yeah, it's not a problem.
Well, I think, well, first of all, the integration of the play and movement and the stores just really, I mean, to me, they were like almost identical twins. We always spoke about, we were a complex of franchise play programs and company-owned retail stores. It was just like one breath. So that even though we all know that the play and movement and all the rest of it, which is a whole nother opinion I have, but we'll leave that for another day, doesn't make a big contribution to the financial health. And I've met the Bain people, so I understand all that. But nevertheless, it is our rich legacy. It is our rich legacy. And so, in preparation for coming today, I actually took a couple of little field trips into the stores and asked them about play and movement, just for fun. And, you know, there's not a lot of education going on. But more than that, or even at base with that, is just the beautiful video that Mark showed that, you know, we really want to be synonymous with childhood. And the part of childhood that's not about learning, which is about play and keeping the essence of childhood. And in doing that, we want to help, because my kid didn't come with a handbook of how-to. And I don't think they do anymore. They still do. Anyone got one? Did you get one with your kid? And the idea of being able to let moms or parents or whoever is, you know, knowing where to go for activities, to be, if Gymboree can be the repository or the distributor of places to be with your child, how cool would that be? I mean, just to do that as ombudsman, or if like, you know, Sheryl Sandberg, you can figure out how to monetize it, all the better. But just to know that that's part of what we do, because that's what we're about. We're about community. you know, and that even in the early days, the idea for me that the stores were an experience as much as they were about buying product. That you came into the store and you left feeling just a little more uplifted, a little more upbeat. And not just because you were trained to say hello and greet the customer and stuff like that, but because the environment, the music we played, the way the store looked, it felt like a gym. It just had that chi, you know, it had that, do I sound too California? We're in California, it's okay, right? It just had that thing. Does that answer you? Is that, okay.
Yeah, that is great, and that is going to be that is a great way to wrap up with
Okay.
that thought, which is a fantastic. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
coming.
for having me here.
Thank you.